Check. Good afternoon, everybody. I see majority of the crowd has come back after lunch. With kind permission, I will start the oration session. It's a proud privilege to introduce Dr. Mathew Cherian, whom I know very well. He has delivered several orations, National Oration of ISNR, ISVAR, Nuclear Medicine Society, Critical Society of India, Tamil Nadu Chapter Pediatric Surgery, Oration of JIPMER Alumni. So several orations he has delivered in the past, and we are really privileged to have his oration here today. He did his MBBS from Medical College, Orissa, and did his post-graduation from JIPMER in Radiology, and did a postdoctoral fellowship at Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute in 1990, and he has been given honorary fellowship in Critical Society of India in 2021. He is a member of several societies that includes SERSI, Society of Interventional Radiology, SIR, Global Embolization Technology, that's GEST, Asia Pacific Congress of Interventional Radiology, International Stroke Summit, World Federation of Therapeutic Neurointervention. Like that, it's a long list. He has got more than 100 publications, and he has various positions held. That includes founder member and past president of ISVR, founder member and current president of STNI, the Society of Therapeutic Neurointerventions. He is associated editor of Journal of Clinical Interventional Radiology, which has completed 5 years, and it has been indexed by a couple of indexing agencies, and it is recognized by Medical Council of India. He is a section editor of IJRI, and he has got industry affiliation with Stryker USA as a member advisory board and proctor. He is member advisory board and proctor in Medtronics USA, Merrill USA, and Inspire from Medical Israel. And he's been awarded ISVR Gold Medal for Lifetime Achievement. He was also awarded a special prize for Hero of South India by ISVR, Lifetime Achievement Award from IMA, Honorary Fellowship from Critical Care Society, and his contribution to IR is immense. He has pioneered advanced interventional radiology in India, as many of us know, and he has helped to train and build interventional radiology in several other neighboring countries. That includes Malaysia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and I know that he has been visiting some of these countries on regular basis, and he has been helping them to improve interventional radiology techniques. He has trained several interventional radiologists, perhaps more than 25, and he has the credit of introducing an indigenous carbon dioxide angiography system in India, and several people are following that particular model. And his favorite saying is, "Without a dream that keeps you awake at night, you are dead. And if you do not believe in that dream, no one else will." His hobbies are painting. I have seen his several paintings, and if you are a Facebook member, you can see there, photography and music. And recently I saw a very popular video where he has acted, and that particular video has become viral in WhatsApp. His favorite book is The Power of Habit. His favorite passion is mentoring. And his favorite movie, The Blind Side. And his favorite food, nothing really. Okay. But I'm sure he'll be helping in the kitchen at home. And what about his mentees, what they have told? Some of the quotations here. I should definitely read some of these. Excellent administrative skills, perfectionist in anything and everything he does, lateral thinking and solution to any complex issues, passionate learner, commitment to charity, readiness to help anyone, mentoring his students not just in academics but to be a better human being. And I think that is one of the most impressive and true statement. Great sense of humor and many, many more. And I must say that he enjoys what he does and he's got a very compassionate approach to his patients, and I have personally witnessed it. And soon after my post-graduation, I had asked his permission and I stayed with him for one day, and I saw what he does from morning to evening, and it's really very, very inspirational. And he's indeed a multifaceted personality, and he's the real person to give this prestigious oration. Thank you very much, Dr. Mathew, for accepting this oration.
The Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry chapter of Indian Radiological and Imaging Association Citation Award in honor of the memory of Professor Arthur Daniel and his exemplary work in the development and growth of the specialty. The Executive Committee of Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry chapter of IRA takes immense pleasure in calling upon Dr. Mathew Cherian in recognition of his contribution to the specialty to deliver the annual oration. This citation is being awarded on the day of his oration at the State Annual Conference of the Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry chapter of IRA on 18 December 2021, held at PSG IMS Auditorium, Coimbatore.
Good afternoon. And at the onset, I'd like to thank the selection committee of the TNPY Tamil Nadu and Pondicherry chapter of IRA for the privilege of speaking this afternoon to all of you all and to all who are online. So before I start, who exactly is Dr. Arthur Daniel? It's not the Dr. Daniel that we all knew in our generation, the interventional radiologist, the man in white with a beard, but whom Dr. Roy Santosham talked about, but it is his father. He was an exceptionally brilliant man, was a professor of radiology at the Barnard Institute in 1958. From 1950 to 1960, he did things which were practically unheard in the world. You must remember that Seldinger technique came into the world in 1955, and he started Seldinger's technique right then and there. He used to do angiography, autography, translumbar autography, and procedures and like sphenophotography which were unheard. And it's so amazing that people will travel all the way from Singapore and Sri Lanka just to get this procedure done by Professor Daniel. You must remember at that point of time, MMC was like a mecca for tropical disease. People from all over the world would come over there. And it indeed is an honor today that I deliver this oration in memory of this exemplary man. And I believe that as a human being, also he was exemplary. When I was asked to give this oration, it was Dr. Anbers who called me and said, and I said, can I do something which is not academic in the true sense of radiology? And he said it was okay if I could deliver what I wanted. So I titled this talk as 7 Short Stories. So sit back, relax, and I hope you can learn from these 7 stories as they taught me things about life. The first one is titled as The Last Kid in Class. I was born in a family of 4. I was the second. My elder brother, who's 2 years older than me, was brilliant. At the age of 1, he could speak. At the age of 2, believe it or not, he could give a whole speech. Then I came along. It took me 3 years to start speaking. People say after that I never stopped speaking. But honestly, I was not at all impressive. I was an introvert. I used to withdraw back. I used to cry at the smallest thing. And so, my father used to use this Malayalam term, which is called potten, This boys are potten, And I believe, and I grew up thinking that I was born to be a dunce. I studied in a school in West Bengal in Kharagpur, and in a class of 21 kids, in class 1, I was 20th. When I came to class 2, I still hovered around 20 and 21. In class 3, I had a very fascinating class teacher. Her name was Mrs. Naik. At the end of the first quarterly exam, I got my usual score, which was just barely scraping and often failing in Hindi. She called me over and said, "Why do you do so badly in class?" Now that was a crazy question for me, because honestly speaking, I thought I was born to do badly, and it didn't surprise me that I was doing badly at all, and nobody at home seemed to be too bothered about it. Now Mrs. Naik told me, "Don't you know that you're exceptionally bright, and you're even brighter than your elder brother?" But at this point of time, my elder brother had already got a double promotion. He was in class 4 by now, when he should have been in class 3. And I couldn't believe what she was saying. I never even believed what she said. Like so often it happens with people. Sometimes they do not truly believe in their own capability, and that was my problem. But Mrs. Naik was relentless. She would check every answer, every question after every class. She would hound me with questions. And the end of a long story, in the final year of class 3, I moved from the 20th and 21st in the class to be the class topper. It was a total transformation in my life. But why do I share this story to you today? People commit many labels. Very often these labels have been given to them, and they start believing these labels. This person is unfriendly, difficult, selfish, cannot be taught, stubborn. There are hundreds of labels that we carry with us. Not capable at all. It could be any one of these labels, and the problem is these people are like unread books. Somebody has told you this book is bad, and I believe it's bad. I'm not willing to change my view. I do not open this book and read it at all. But the fact is much deeper than that. I do not know how many of you know this is true about elephants. If you see a huge elephant, often you see that elephant tied to a tree or a pole with a small thin chain or a rope. This is called the elephant syndrome, which happens in us also. The elephant doesn't pull and break that chain, which it easily do, because it's capable of bringing down the tree. When the elephant is a small calf, when they tie this chain onto the leg, and every time the elephant tries to pull that chain, it cuts into the flesh. The pain and the memory of the pain is so much that even when the elephant has become this big animal, it cannot get out of that fear. It's convinced that pulling on that chain is pain. It can be so deep that the elephant doesn't realize it's no longer that same calf. There are so many people that you'll meet, your colleagues, students, maybe it's your child that you're working with, maybe it's your husband or your wife, I do not know. But sometimes you need a person to make this person understand that you're gone beyond that chain. You've got to help that person come out of that situation by telling, "I believe that you can do it, and I will stand by your side to make sure that you do it." And it's an amazing privilege as you see people transform around you. There are often people who come and tell me, "You're partial to someone who's difficult." And I say, no, that's not true. We do not allow people to fail who have come in contact with us, because we have the capacity to set this person free to truly understand his potential. And I hope you understand this truth. So my first message today is this. Our words have power. We can destroy a person to an extent that he or she feels ugly, worthless, incapable of doing anything good. You keep telling your son, you're no good, you're an idiot, you're useless. I know people who use words like stupid, a bastard. You know, these get ingrained into the child's mind so deeply, they actually feel worthless. They will rebel with you much later in life. A student is told always, you cannot do it. We tell every student that you can do it. But just listen to the path we take you through. But you can break their chains to realize they're a beautiful creature full of hope, purpose, into visionary leaders who can transform the world. It is in your hands. Young or old, a teacher, a professor of years of seniority, you can break or you can create an astounding individual if you're willing today. The second one is called the broken scooter. By now I finished my school, I wrote my MBBS entrance exam, I got selected, but that letter came with a rider. What was that rider? The rider said I should come with a certificate saying that I'm a permanent domicile of the city of the state of Odisha, which I wasn't. I had applied on a clause which says a central government employee, his son is entitled for a seat because as long as he's posted in the state, and for some reason they ignored that clause. My father went to the principal, they said he had to go to the health secretary, we had no contact with the health secretary, there's no way that we could do it. I had to join in 1978, the 1st of September. On the 20th of August, it was like there was no way out, and I was not even too bothered at that age in my life. On 28th afternoon, a friend of mine, his name is Chandramouli, was driving his scooter. He was meant to be in Chennai at that time. He had come for a vacation, and as he was driving his scooter, his accelerator cable broke on a road which was 100 meters from my house. He came home to drop the scooter, and he told me that, what are you doing here? And I told him my problem. He said, you know something, my dad was an IS officer. He said, no, he's come back from Delhi. He's posted back in Orissa. He's the current chief secretary. Why don't you come tomorrow morning and meet my dad? Next day morning, before his dad left for work, it was 10 o'clock. I was there by 8:30. I knew his dad well. He said, what's the problem? I showed him that book and which says the prospectus, which says clearly that I could apply. He said, there's no problem. Why don't you write a letter to the health secretary? I'll sort it out for you. We sat in his office, me and Chandramouli, typed out a letter requesting the health secretary for admission on the clause. To cut a long story short, once again, at lunchtime, Chandramouli's dad came with a letter saying the government of Odisha is pleased to give you admission into this college based on your merit. Now, why am I sharing this to you? I'm sharing this to make you understand that every one of us in this place, when we look back in our life, we realize there was something astounding that happened in my path that made me what I am today. If that accelerator cable did not break, I wouldn't be a doctor. I wouldn't be the celebrated interventional radiologist. I would be, I don't know what today, maybe a clerk somewhere, honestly speaking, because I don't even know I was doing botany at that time. Why am I telling you this? The biggest problem we face with many, many people is the sense of entitlement. I am who I am because of my hard work. I am entitled to respect, I'm entitled to honor, I'm entitled to certain number of cases, I'm entitled to this salary, I'm entitled to fixed hours of work. It's I all the time. I want my PD to stand up, I want my secretary to stand up, I want him to carry my bag. I do not know what these I's are. And it's a struggle to work with people who believe that they are entitled at every time to everything else. The day this entitlement will go is the day you understand that I was entitled to nothing, and every breath that I take, everything that I have is truly a gift from something supernatural. From a living God, the Almighty God, or whatever you call it. And that is the secret of humility and the secret of giving up entitlement and being somebody beautiful in your life. So every day when we do cases and we do amazing cases and difficult cases, I remind myself with one thing: I am nothing but a mechanic. I have not learned to create a new heart, a new kidney, a new blood vessel. Nothing. I can fix these things with either somebody else's old parts or use some synthetic stuff that nowhere resembles the real stuff, and I am a mechanic. But there's a huge difference out here, that I am a mechanic but working on God's most precious creation. What does that mean? It basically means I always think God is watching over me and saying, be careful. You're touching something, somebody extremely precious to me. The apple of my eye, my precious child. If you do not have that attitude, you'll be unethical. Your decision makings will be biased. And one of the things we treat all our fellows and my colleagues is always check, are you doing the thing that is perfect, fair and justified for the patient every day? And every day I have to do this, to thank God that He trusted me with His most precious creation. It's a privilege when we touch human life, because you're meddling with God's most precious creation. I want you to understand this fundamentally. On the picture, it's a plant which is an orchid. The orchid is a parasite. It looks glorious, but it sucks out the life of the place where it is attached to. The heart that's obsessed with the spirit of entitlement lives as a parasite. You know what's the difference between a parasite and everything else? The parasite only learns to receive. It doesn't know to give. The day the parasite gives, it dies. Today ask yourself, am I a parasite? Asking more, or are you a giver that empowers people around you? When you're a parasite, you suck the life out of everything around you. Those who believe that their job is a God-given opportunity to serve are a blessing, and they inspire others, and they're the happiest people on earth. Ask yourself this question: are you a parasite? Are you a giver? Do you inspire? Do you build? Do you lift people? Do you break that rope? Or those people who feel they are chained? Do you set them free? Or it's all about yourself? The third story is called The Ugly Room. By now, I had finished my MBBS and I joined JIPMER for my radiology. It was the worst department in JIPMER. Ugly, dark rooms, old machinery, and piles of x-rays in cupboards, and a very caustic set of people who believe that they should not be friendly to anybody. Somebody comes for a doubt, look so and give them such a dirty look, they'll never come back to your department again. Make sure that everybody is miserable. Into that environment, when I came, it was very easy to get depressed and run off. There's a student of mine called Shibadala. One day I was traveling with him. He used this term. He said, "Sir, when difficulties come, you must learn to make gold out of dung." He was telling an example how he started schools. He's doing very well. And I used the same phrase that he used, learn to make gold out of dung. So what was the dung that would make gold in this totally depressing department? I don't know what you think, but honestly, it was this. The piles of old films that were there in the cupboard. As I one evening was looking at them, I realized this was the collection of the most astounding cases. Every skeletal dysplasia, every form of consolidation, all kind of investigations. You look at skeletons where secondaries or lytic lesions or bone tumors, they're all there. So I sat and classified them. I made them into sets and subsets. And I started taking classes. I took class for the undergrads, I took class for the postgrads, I took class for the postdoctorals, just about everybody. It was an astounding thing. I used to have a book, a diary. I used to start my class at 8 p.m. It used to go up to 12 o'clock or 1 in the morning, where I used to have an appointment. So-and-so urology class, so-and-so general surgery class. Slowly, people started looking at radiology in a very different light, because when I was taking these classes, I would tell them about what radiology was all about. Two things happened. But the next year, better students started joining radiology. And slowly the hospital opened their eyes to me. I'd spent just 1 year in Railway Hospital, Perambur. The chief of cardiology asked me, can you start angiography program here? And I started. I did the first cerebral angiography over there. I did the first 4-vessel angiography. I'm 24 years. If anybody who thinks is young can't do things. I did the first pulmonary valvuloplasty there. I did the first renal angioplasty there. And by the time I left, we had changed the culture of JIPMA completely till another HOD came who had a lot of problems with his own life, I guess, and destroyed it. What I want to make you understand is one simple truth. This picture is a picture from Mark Twain's story, Whitewashing the Fence. It's about a boy called Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer was a young American boy, and his mother told him to go and whitewash his fence on a Sunday morning. Tom Sawyer was dejected to a point. He said, God, I can't be doing this on a Sunday morning, a mundane, dirty work when every kid is playing. As he started whitewashing the fence, the friends came and stood by the side. They started laughing at him. They started, telling, hey, what a loser. But Tom Sawyer decided not to look at them and finally said, don't disturb me. This is important work. And my mom expects me to do it perfectly and nobody else can do it. Once, twice, thrice. And then the boy started asking, Tom, can you please give me a chance? He said, no way. This is too important a job. Half an hour later, Tom Sawyer was sitting under the shade of the trees. 10 boys had given their apples, their oranges, their marbles, their whistles and tops as a price to whitewash the fence because the job had looked so glamorous. The lesson I want to leave behind with you, your perspective about your job changes others' perspective about you and your job. You feel radiology is boring. You feel reporting CT scans is boring. You feel ultrasound is boring. That's a big problem I face. None of the consultants like ultrasound because it's boring. But the day you change everything is when you change your perspective, and that's how you excel. When you start deciding, look, I'm going to do something astounding out of this place, which people think, and that is making gold out of dung. But first, you got to believe that you're not doing mundane work. You got to believe that is something astounding. If you go abroad, one of the things I realize, people respect what they do. A nurse is excited about what she does. She's proud of what she does. And I do not see that a lot in our country. Change the perspective you have about your job, and others will respect you better because you take pride in the work that you do. Story 4, the dreamer. I used to dream. I used to dream of building the most astounding interventional radiology department. I learned to do angiography not because I was brilliant, but because my mother had a hole in the heart at ASD, which had to be operated in Railway Hospital, Perambur, and I joined as a junior doctor, so I learned the tricks of angiography at the age of 23 years. But I just loved it. I just felt catheters were created for my hands. And I dreamt, and I dreamt, and I dreamt, and I came to KMCH because it was a brand new hospital. There was no culture set up. It was a new city. Professor V.R.K. Rao was aghast. He said, you can never develop intervention. He felt that I was a very talented guy, but he said, Coimbatore is not a place for you. And he got me a job in Just Low for exactly 6 times the salary which I was getting in KMCH. At that time, I joined KMCH with the lowest salary in KMCH, 6,000 rupees, because I did not know how to ask a salary. Because I faced that, I never let my consultants ask for salaries. I negotiate for them. New hospital, equipment's not suited for IR. They had a dark room fluoroscopy and a cath lab without a DSA. I was already used to a DSA. Hospital finances were low, they couldn't buy it. Disposable, awareness of IR, zero. When I used to ask for cerebral angio, people will say there's no aneurysms in South India, at least in Tamil Nadu. And initial patients were so poor you can't imagine. Even today, we get poor patients, it looked hopeless. But there was hope in barrenness. What was that hope? The hospital was not against me starting a division of interventional radiology, and that's all I want. At that point in time, when I approached CMC Vellore, they said we're not interested. Nobody seems to think in 1990 that interventional radiology would be such an astounding specialty. So what did we do? We made our own coils out of guideware. We charged absolutely no fees, got material through friends, used super glue to stick those materials when those hubs would break. And what happened in the years that followed? First, the press took notice of us. We started getting the press writing articles because every single thing we did was something new and nobody had heard about it. And this slowly helped the people around to start understanding that we are doing things which are not seen. I used to talk in every IMA. There was not a single weekend that I would be free. It went on and on and on and on and on, year after year. And finally I had this book which Dr. Abdul Kalam would release for me. But that was not the all. We also published like crazy. We published in a radiology journal, but more in clinical journals. They are a referral base. For the matter, radiologists hardly sent a case to me, never. When I talked to Scan Center, they said, our clients will go. So the clinician, and we went on, and that's one reason we encourage everybody in our department to publish and publish and publish. Now, in the end, what happened? We started with something as primitive as this. 20 years later, we got to one of the best labs to be created in the world and one of the first in India. But it took 22 years to get this. 22 years of patience, 22 years of hard work before the management believed. There are people today in 2 years they want things and they get upset if they don't get it. Was the journey easy? No, it was the lowest paid job. I was overworked. I had no holidays. I had no vacations. For 10 years I didn't take a single break, a single vacation. I was disliked by my colleague because I was a meddling radiologist. I was not an interventional radiologist, no surgeon, no clinician like me. It was a lonely battle. Because every complication would be horrendous. When I was at death, it would be celebrated by my colleagues. I'm not joking. Catch me on the corridor. What is the lesson that you have learned out of this? Extremely lonely. But the fact is, success can be very lonely. And if you expect people to clap and cheer you, they will grow out of it sometime. Also, you must remember, when you focus on problems, you'll have more problems. When you focus on possibilities, you'll have more opportunities. We decided to make the first ambulance with a CT to run. The first was crazy. It didn't work. It couldn't do anything. We rebuilt it from scratch. We changed the chassis. I sat with the builder. We made everything in stainless steel. We got the stuff moving and working and created a perfect model. What is a success? No, it failed. So the government of Tamil Nadu said we will not give TPA unless the patients are patients who come to CMC. Was it a failure? Failure is not the opposite of success, is a part of success. Truthfully. This is Guwahati. Finally, the government of Guwahati would take the same model from us, use the same builder from us, build the same prototype and started the stroke ambulance successfully in Assam. This model will slowly be replicated in the whole of Northeast. What do you think is a failure, success for somebody else? And for me, that itself is great success. It is, Roosevelt's wife who said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. In other words, you don't believe in your dream, nothing can ever happen. And this is something I want to share with you. Problems are like a huge rock of marble. When a sculptor sees it, he understands under this marble, there is a creation that he can make that is astounding. And as he chips away, he comes closer to the dream. There is no problem too big that you cannot overcome. If you persevere, and you persevere. I come to story 5, the deaf old man. There are shorter stories, but very, very meaningful for leaders over here. It was Dr. Rupa one day who walked in my room and told me that, sir, I've got a dream. And I've got a dream, can you help me build a division on breast imaging and women's imaging? And can I be somewhere like the way you grew up? And suddenly I realized for 20 years I'd grown up and I'd become like a steep, shiny, smooth ladder. The flag on the top was good, everybody was noticing me, but nobody else could climb that ladder. I was climbed that pole. And I realized the only way out was, if I could become a ladder, allowing people to climb on me, then things would change completely. The beautiful song by Steve Goben, it says, I am strong when I am on your shoulders, you raise me up to more than I can be. Steve Goben is talking about standing on God's shoulders, but at the same time I understand, do you know that we can raise people up if only we allow them to stand on our shoulders. So that's the time we divided the department. We called people and said, let's start divisions. Stand on my shoulders. I'll use my contact. the influence I have with the administration. When you stand on my shoulder, you can be much more than you ever dreamt you could be. And I want you to understand that is the most beautiful thing about life. The day you use your shoulders for others to grow on, something beautiful happens in their lives. But you understand it can be painful. All kind of people climb that ladder, which is you. Some with difficult pointed shoes, some with gentle feet. Some will thank you, some will not thank you. But it doesn't matter. What finally matters is you see people growing and growing tall, and you realize you had a role to play in their life to become what they want. I love to get involved in their lives in every aspect, whatever way they can, so they can stand with me or even go beyond me. So this is what I want to leave behind you. You can blossom to be the most astounding flower ever. But it too will wilt and die one day. But you become eternal as you mentor, teach and leave behind a legacy of people who carry a part of you forever. You become eternal. I'll go back to dust from where I came. Go back to ashes where I started. But when you mentor and teach, they carry you with you for eternity. If you're not a mentor, it's time to start mentoring today. Use your shoulders for others to stand on so they can grow to be something beautiful. The second last story is called Breaking Sandcastles. What does it mean? It's so easy for me to destroy somebody completely. One day I was in the cath lab. I had a young doctor training with me. We do the 2-year fellowships at that time. Now it's DNB. He was assisting me and something was going wrong. I was getting stressed up. I screamed at him. I shouted at him. Halfway through, I told him to get out. I told him, scrub out. And I asked a junior to come and assist me. He was insulted beyond anything. There were nurses there. As I was writing the notes after the case, he came up to me and told me that, sir, I'm quitting. I cannot take this insulting from you anymore. I had two options that day. You tell him, young friend, let me call him Rajesh, Rajesh, I have trained so many people that do extremely well. If you cannot take this from me, then quit. This is who I am. I'm strict. I'm a perfectionist. I believe excellence in everywhere. We do not believe mediocrity. I do not tolerate mediocrity. Or I could do another thing. I could actually tell him, I'm really sorry. Here by the side is a 32-year-old student. I am 58 at that time. I am the celebrated radiologist. He is a young kid who knows nothing. That day I decided to say sorry. I told that young boy, I said, Rajesh, will you forgive me? Will you forgive me for what I did? And I promise I will not do that again. And believe me, I have not done that again for anybody. But only don't leave. Because if you leave, it is the worst thing I could have done for anyone. You know, often I tell sorry even when I'm totally not at fault, because sometimes it makes the other person comfortable. Sometimes it makes them feel better. Maybe it takes their guilt. I don't know what it is. But telling sorry has become so easy as I realize it can sometimes transform. This young boy did not even whisper a word. He did not even say thank you. But he did one thing. He never left. He continued those 2 years. And today he is an astounding interventional radiologist working in a government medical college, transformed that area completely because that day I could say sorry. And I want to leave behind this thought with you. When a choice comes between doing what is right and what pleases your ego, choose what's right. Soon the sense of fulfillment you receive will fill you with far greater joy than the transient pleasure of an ego that was satisfied. Even in your house, even with your spouses, even with your children, if you know that there is a mistake that you have made, if you think that things can become better, say sorry. It's only the strong who can say sorry. I wanted to leave that with you today as I come to the last story. The last story is called a father and son story. It's probably one of the stories that touched me the most. One day my son called me. I just dropped out of the cath lab. He said, Dad, I had an accident. I hit the bumper of a guy in the front and he's mad at me. Even as I spoke to him, I knew what he would be doing. He would have been texting on his phone or something like that. I didn't ask him anything. I said, what is he doing? He's screaming at me. I said, can you just give the phone to him? We gave the phone to him. He turned out to be a chartered accountant, very influential. He was screaming, he was shouting. I introduced myself. I told him how sorry he was. I told him I'll give him my second car. He calmed down. And he told me one thing. He said, you don't have to come, sir. I'll take care of it. Don't bother. You stay in the hospital. But somewhere I knew that my son would still need me. So I left everything and I ran for him. And when I went over there, what did I find? This man was still very angry. He had called the cops. They had taken his license off. 3 of his friends were around him. And this guy was standing all alone over there. And what probably happened was this, but I never even questioned that. So this was the scene. And when I came there, this is what happened. I stood between my son and these people and took all the insults on myself. I took the blame, I took the hurt, I took the anger. Sometimes I do that even now in the department. All the bullshit that my chairman or somebody wants to pile up, I never bring it to the department. I rather face it because I feel it's much easier that way. So in the end, what happened? Things were patched up and it was actually so good that we even became like friends. And he gave back the card and he said, I got an insurance and I'll take care of everything. When I got into the car to take my son back, he started crying. And I said, what are you crying? He said, Dad, I never knew that love could be this beautiful. He said, you took every insult for me. I deserved it. You were screamed at, you were fired at so that I could be protected. You know, I want you to make you understand this. Leadership is often taking the insult or the blame on yourself and protecting the people who depend upon you. There are some people who blame others for everything in life. No, it's not. Actually, if you see the story of Abdul Kalam, and he said the first PSLV-1 was shot up and it fell down, then the chairman of ISRO, he actually would tell Abdul Kalam, let's go for the press meet, and he said that I have failed. And Abdul Kalam was stunned because he felt his team had failed. 3 years later, when the second one went up successfully, he said, Abdul Kalam, let's have a press meet. And he stood there and said, tell your success story. We don't take the success of others. We allow them to glory in their success. But if you then take the failures of others and make it your failures, they will grow. The second thing I want to leave behind with you is this. When somebody makes a plea for help, first help. He's drowning. He may not have another chance in life. There will always be time to advise. He's drowning. He needs your help. That's why he's asking you for help. It's very easy to blame him and tell him that things are not right. You did it. You deserve it. That's your fault. No, take that on yourself. Rescue him and bring him out. And you will get time to advise him. I hope it sinks in your life. In whatever situation, my son is such a transformed person. His whole spiritual journey changed. He could understand the relationship of God the Father with him when he looked at this and said, I can understand so much more. It's a story he's told in so many places. When my father stood between me and the people who insulted me, which I truly deserved, and took the shame to set me free. These are the people who can transform the place, and I hope you can do something like this. I'll leave behind with you this thought. Kindness makes you the most beautiful person in the world, no matter what you look like. Fat, short, ugly, dark, doesn't matter. Let kindness flow from you like a river and a stream. I'll leave behind with this. You have been created. This is CMC Velo's tagline, not to be served, but to serve. Today, if you understand each story, if you transform somebody and break him free, you serve him that he can be set free. If you do not believe that you've got entitlement, you serve that he may be free. You start serving people because you see them in a different way altogether. If you learn how to make the worst situation good, you start serving people again. And as you dream and as you build and as you forgive people who hurt you and as you continue to do good, things will change around you. Learn to say sorry whenever you can. Learn not to destroy people. And I believe in faith that as you transform and bless and change people, you will make your world a better world to live. Thank you.